when we take our narrow mind off of, we're building something that's accessible for this one small minority community. No, you're not. You're building something to be universally better for everybody who's living here. The way that I want to move to Zootopia. Tell me why a fictional world designed for animals is more accessible than the real world that disabled humans live in. I just have to talk about this. So I was seeing all the buzz on social media about the second Zootopia coming out, which, full disclosure, I haven't watched. And I also had not watched the first one, but I am so obsessed with animals in all forms. Real animals, stuffed animals, cartoon animals. In particular, I love anthropomorphized animals.
Anthropomorphized?
That's the word. When they're like standing on two feet and they're walking like humans and they're dressed in clothing. It's been ever since I was a kid and I watched, real ones are gonna know this, the Canadians, that is. Timothy goes to school, anything can happen. Obsessed with that show, and it like made me fall in love with animals who live like humans and wear clothes and just like have a whole life. Like that's the world I truly want to live in. And so like seeing all these ads for the second Zootopia, I was like, man, I really need to watch the first one because this seems like my kind of movie. And I'm not usually like a cartoon kind of gal, but it just really spoke to me. So I said that to my partner and he was like, oh, let's watch one of the trailers. So he pulls up the trailer and most of the trailer was pretty visual. Like there wasn't a lot of dialogue and there was no audio description on the trailer, obviously. So he was kind of describing it to me and I have to give credit where credit is due. He was like, wait a second, this is like such a great example of universal design. Because listen, this man's been around me for almost 3 years now. He has heard me talk about universal design and the social model of disability a few too many times. So
every single day.
Every single day. I've been bitching and complaining about it, okay? This is my soapbox. And so he gets the idea at this point in a way that, I mean, so many people struggle to understand the concept of social model of universal design. No matter how much I talk about it, I feel like there's people who are like scratching their head in the corner. And like honestly, even people within the disability community. And I do understand because it took me quite a while to like really get it. But once you get it, you can't unsee it. And my boyfriend was completely right. It was such a great example of universal design. And maybe if we cannot grasp the concept of universal design in our real world because it's not happened yet, so it's a little like not tangible, if we cartoonize it and step into the world of Zootopia, it'll allow us to understand how really when we design like everybody matters, we build a world that everybody can use. So before I get into all the details, I obviously had to watch the movie. So that night we rented it, turned AD on, watched it. And the whole time we were just like, yes, this. Like there was so many examples. And let me be clear, there's also like so much nuance into kind of discussions around like gender and race and all sorts of different social issues that kind of segment and divide us in society. But obviously for me, the main one that I was like laser focused on was the universal design aspects. So then I thought, this can't have been an accident. Like this is too good. This is too good an example. So I did some Googling and it turns out that from the research I've done at least, it looks like Disney actually consulted disabled people, in particular consulted people who worked on the Americans with Disabilities Act to learn about universal design, to learn about ways that everybody could be accommodated in society to create the Zootopia city. So if you've also not seen the movie like me, let me kind of break it down a little bit. Basically, it's about this bunny, Miss Judy Hopps, such a queen, who decides that she doesn't want to live in small town rural Bunnyville. She wants to go to the big city and she wants to be a strong cop. So bunnies have never been cops before and everybody thought this was like, haha, Kiki, so funny. She thinks she can do that. And she was like, best believe I can. So we then see her leave her little town and she's taking the train into the city of Zootopia. And immediately this was like the first moment when my boyfriend and I were both like, universal design. The train pulls up and there's all these different cars, train cars, with different styles of doors. So there's like teeny tiny doors that are perfect for like the mice and the gerbils. And then there's these really big doors that are good for hippopotamus and for elephants. And then there's like bunny-sized doors for the mid-sized animals. And it's great because she doesn't have to deal with like a door that's too small for her or with steps that are too big for her. She's just able to go into the car that suits her abilities. And you guys know on this channel, I absolutely gag at the term differently abled. However, obviously, in the context of the animals, it is different abilities. So I'm saying that in context of the animals, not in context of disabled people. And because the train was designed to be accessible for all the different animals on it, all of them were able to easily and independently and comfortably get to where they needed to go. And then as we see Judy on the train, like going through the city, you start to see all the different landscapes. You see different buildings designed with different sized and shaped doors and windows with different lift options. Like elevators don't necessarily work for everybody. So some of them, like the smaller animals, are using tubes and tunneling systems to get through spaces. You start to see that in the city, they've created different zones that work best for different temperatures and climates that animals might require. So there's like the cold zone for polar bears and animals like that. Then there's like the splash wet zone for water animals. And then there's like these tiny little areas for little mice and little tiny rodents and stuff. Like it's so freaking cool. And then once they get there, you see Judy going to this like ice cream popsicle stand where it's designed for elephants. So the food is elephant sized because a mouse isn't eating the same amount as an elephant needs to eat. So their different needs are being met with different spaces that are designed with them in mind. And then we continue on and we see job access. We see animals like sloths not being discounted because they're slow. They're still working and contributing and given opportunity. We see a scene where there's like a little gerbil who's working at a food stand and is serving a big tall giraffe. And obviously this tiny gerbil can't hand the giraffe way up there its food. So there's a special lift that brings the food up when it's ready to the giraffe's height. Neither of those people were excluded there, right? The gerbil wasn't not given an opportunity to work because it was too small to serve bigger customers. And equally, taller customers weren't told this isn't an establishment that you can eat at because you're too big for this space. Everybody was accommodated. We see the cars in the city driving around. All the cars are different sizes, different types of seats and steering wheels that suit the different needs of different species. There was different lanes for the different types of cars. So the small cars wouldn't necessarily be driving in the same lane as the big cars for safety. So all of these different things were considered, and they built the city to be useful for every single animal living in it. And what's more interesting to think about is if they had not done that, then these animals would be disabled. Because if they could not access the train due to the fact that they're a really large animal like a hippopotamus and the train only has medium and small doors, then that hippopotamus is disabled by the fact that it cannot access public transit and get to where it needs to go. And if there was no cars that accommodated a hippopotamus, it would not be able to maintain transport that way either. So it would be disabled by that experience. And this is what I mean by when I talk about like disability often feels like a social construct. And that really, to me, curing my disability is simply designing with me in mind, designing a space that I can equally access. And when we think about what would this look like in the real world, like how do we translate this? It's such simple, easy things like ramps and automatic door buttons being everywhere so that not only people in wheelchairs or with walkers are able to access those spaces, but people who have a baby in a stroller, people who are pulling a suitcase, delivery people pushing carts can all access that space when they need to. It looks like audible signals on every single crosswalk so that blind people like myself are able to easily, safely, and accessibly cross the street. But equally, for the people who cannot take their eyes off their phone every 10 seconds, They're able to be scrolling, sending work emails, looking after their child in the stroller, and then they know when it's ready to cross because they hear the audible noise go off. It's restaurants offering menus in different accessible formats, whether that be high color contrast, large bold fonts, easy to read designs. Those things help everybody. A lot of people really appreciate when there's photos on menus. That's helpful for people who are not able to read, for people who are nonverbal. But it's also just helpful for people who are picky or struggle to pick what they want to eat, to see the picture, to know what's gonna be most appealing to them in that moment. There's so many little tweaks that society could make that would allow all of us to contribute. But right now, like 80% of disabled people in this country are unemployed. And so much of that is not down to the lack of skill, talent, and ability. It's due to the lack of access, and it's due to the negative misconceptions that people hold about what disabled people are actually capable of doing and the ways in which we can contribute. For me, the two hardest parts about living life as a blind person is, number one, people's attitudes, like people's unhinged beliefs that they hold about me, what I'm capable of, myself, my worth in society and my value, how I can contribute, just all of the like ableist rhetoric. And then the inaccessibility. Like when I use something that is fully designed with me in mind and it's accessible, I don't feel disabled. When I'm playing Braille Uno with everybody at the table, like everybody else is sighted, but the cards have Braille on it, I feel perfectly functional. There's nothing in that moment I feel like I'm missing out on. But then if I go somewhere and everybody wants to play a board game and it's not accessible, and so I have to partner up with my boyfriend and everybody else is playing solo and my boyfriend's just like whispering to me and I'm like, okay, yeah, do that. Then I do feel disabled because all of a sudden I need help doing something that I am perfectly capable of doing, even though my body is not allowing me to in that moment. But that's not my body's fault. It's the fact that that product was only designed with one specific type of person in mind. And there's so many ways in which different things that help me as a blind woman help lots of other types of people. Help people who are English as a second language and reading English is not easy for them. People with print reading disabilities like dyslexia, people with language processing disorders who need to access information in different ways. People who don't have their glasses on when they're in the shower or doing their makeup would benefit from the same type of accessibility that I need as a blind person when I'm doing my makeup or when I'm going into the shower. So when we take our narrow mind off of, we're building something that's accessible for this one small minority community. No, you're not. You're building something to be universally better for everybody who's living here. But right now, society's been designing for the average, for the perfect size medium human. And that means so many of us are left on the fringes. People in different sized bodies, people with different racial backgrounds, people with different disabilities are left out of certain opportunities because the world was designed with this one person in mind. Anyways, this is kind of a short Molly Rambles, but I just really wanted to bring this topic to the table and have this conversation. I'm so curious. I'm sure there's some aspects of universal design in Zootopia that I even missed. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts and perspectives on this. I cannot wait to see the second movie. It's been a little too busy around the holiday season for me, but I really hope that I get to see it because I'm very curious how they carried this idea over into the next Zootopia and if they've like iterated any on it. I also think the name is so aptly named, like Zootopia, because it really showcases what a utopia would look like for people like me. Also, before I wrap it up, we have to give a shout out. Look how cutesy, Snoopy! I just want you guys to know that even though I'm not really making festive content this year, I am still kind of festive. Okay, that's it. Until next time, you can click over here to watch a Molly Rambles, or you can click over here to see a reaction video I made. Bye!